Look at your microphone stand. That's crazy. So you can just be in any position.
Yeah, this is right now where I'm in my laziest position.
You're sitting the wrong way in a chair.
Well, we're gay, so we don't know how to sit.
We're gay. We're not actually contractually not allowed to sit in a chair correctly. Do you know what I learned was apparently something that lesbians are known for?
What?
Sitting on apparently lesbians only sit with a leg underneath of them. Which I don't know how to prove that right or wrong, but I do that every single time I sit down.
Right.
Hey everyone. Welcome to Creepy InQueeries,
A podcast dedicated to all things creepy, spoopy, and true crimey.
With your hosts, Miss
and Kevin.
Your friendly neighborhood queers.
Let's
dive Should we catch up?
Yeah, let's catch up. Well, hi, darling.
Well, hello. Hello.
How are you?
Oh, totally fine.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Obviously, you've still been studying for the bar, and that's been going okay, right?
Sure. Yeah, it's going fine.
Everyone that's been listening has been supportive of you. And
yes, of course. Yeah.
And has been, sending thoughts and prayers.
Listen, I don't care what you send me. I'll literally take anything. What else did I do? Oh, I made French toast yesterday.
You did? Cool.
Yes, I made French toast yesterday. So big weekend in our house.
Shit.
I don't want to brag.
Did you save me any?
Of course not.
God damn it.
That's about it over here for us. How was your weekend or your week? How was your whole week?
My weekend was great. I
okay.
did a thing, miss.
What'd you do?
I went to the movie theaters.
How was it?
And I wasn't sure I was going to, but I figured, you know what? Fuck it. We could all die tomorrow.
That is it.
I had to go and see. I just had to, miss. I know we were going to watch it together, but I had to go and see Scream.
Well, I knew you weren't going to wait until the bar was over to watch it with me.
I am a Scream fanatic, and yes, I am glad that you know this.
You scream for Scream?
I scream for Scream. I scream, you scream, we all scream for Scream. I enjoyed it very much.
Compared to the fourth one, which was garbage.
In the list of Screams 1 through 5, my tally is Scream 1, Scream 2, Scream 5 that just came out, Scream 3, and Scream 4.
Wow. Top 3.
Yes. A lot of people say Scream 3 is at the bottom of the barrel, which I disagree with wholeheartedly because Parker Posey, firstly.
Ooh, yes.
Amazing.
Yes.
Hilarious. And Courtney Cox's bangs in Scream 3 were iconic.
Yeah.
You can't argue with that.
We need to do a little marathon.
Yes, we do.
Soon.
Yeah, it's been a good 10 years or so since you've seen the first 3. You haven't even seen Scream 4, I don't think.
No. I don't remember. Okay, so we've done this before. Where you sat me down and then we watched the movies together.
You called the Scream Killer of 3 pretty quickly and without any kind of foresight. You're like, it's probably like some long lost brother that we've never heard of.
Listen,
and it was.
I, from an inappropriately young age, have been trying to solve mysteries. 7 times out of 10, it's going to be so wrong, it's embarrassing. But those 3 times I get it right, it's going to be exactly right.
On the knows. So we have to rewatch all 4 Screams, and then in March we will absolutely watch it. Well, fuck yeah. I'm so excited.
Yeah.
We are here.
Yes.
It is episode 11. We have slayed 11 weeks
It's our 11th week.
True crimes and spooky tales.
That's crazy.
I am so proud of us.
I am too. Who knew?
Genuinely. Who knew that we would do this long?
Because neither of us thought it.
Not one.
I was like,
not a one.
What a great distraction from the things I need to be doing.
But all the same, I'm so glad that we're doing this, and I'm so happy that we're here doing like more episodes.
Yeah. And thank you who's ever listening for being here with us while we just talk to each other.
And if you are listening right now, go ahead and click subscribe to whatever you're listening to. Follow us on Instagram at Creepy Inquiries Pod. Follow us on Facebook. We're at Creepy Inquiries Pod. Go ahead and visit our website at creepyinquiriespod.com.
I mean, yes, do those things.
Am I doing it right? Am I saying it right?
You are nailing it. Yes, do all those things, please. Or just maybe, you could give us a star or 5.
Oh, give us 5. We deserve it. We only strive for 5, so don't give us a 1 star because we're better than
they can
that.
give us a 1 star.
And you know it, listener. You know it.
Yeah.
So, Miss, my dear, it
Yeah.
is your week for true criming. It is your true crime story week.
Is it?
It sure is.
Could it be?
It sure could be.
All right. For the true crime this week, we are going to talk about Mr. Charles Edmund Cullen, the killer nurse. New Jersey's most prolific serial killer, an angel of death.
Angel. Ooh. You're talking my true crime language right now, babe.
I'd never heard of this.
I have not either.
And it's interesting because he is New Jersey's, and who knows if that's actually true. That's just what the internet told me a few times. But yeah, he's considered to be New Jersey's most prolific serial killer. He killed a lot of people. Tons. Oh. It's not funny. Stop laughing, miss. All right. On December 12th, 2003, police in Somerset, New Jersey, arrested 43-year-old Charles Edmund Cullen for 1 charge of murder and 1 charge of attempted murder. In the coming days, Charles would confess to killing over 40 people while working as a nurse from 1988 to 2003. Some close to the investigation believe that the number is actually closer to 300, even though he was only convicted of 29.
I'm in. I am so ready for this story.
You in? Yes, I'm so glad
I've never heard of him, and he sounds like a dastardly bastard.
He is a dastardly
I'm trying
bastard.
to make that rhyme, but it
He's dastardly bastard. Why doesn't that rhyme? You really think it would?
Because it could be dastardly bastardly. So he's just a fucking monster.
Yeah. Tons of people.
Tons.
Because Cullen committed his murders in his capacity as a nurse, he's considered, like I said, an angel of death. It's a type of medical serial killer that purposefully ends a patient's life, usually with medication, justifying their murders as mercy kills or putting them out of their misery.
Yeah.
Which, in theory, doesn't sound as bad as killing somebody for money or sex. But then I remembered that little thing called consent. That removes any sort of niceness I feel towards this man.
Yeah, I know. Even if you're on your deathbed, you still should have a choice of when you should be dying, No,
you should always have a choice, including if you want to die before that. Good old Dr. Kevorkian, the angel of death. But he's not an angel of death because he's killing with so much consent.
Yes, killing with consent. And that's a whole other episode.
He just doesn't. Yeah, and plus most angels of death don't actually feel that way. It's just an easy way to murder people that goes undetected for a long time. And angels of death usually have the highest body counts of all types of killers because they go undetected for so long. The problem in the story we're going to hear today is that Cullen didn't go undetected. Not in the normal sense, but almost each hospital, he was either investigated for suspicious activity or deaths that couldn't be explained, or the hospital themselves were investigated because of suspicious deaths, or coworkers would report him for suspicious activity. So you can't say that this angel of death specifically went undetected because he was detected over and over and over again, and nothing happened. Some even outright reported him to the police, and still, he killed without interference for 16 years.
16 years?
Yes, sir.
That's a whole driver's license worth of person.
Yeah. 1988 to 2003.
That's when I got, and that's when you got your driver's license.
Yes, that is in fact the year we were born. Yes.
That's close to home.
It really does. So it's not like that's when you can get a license. That's when we got our licenses.
Side note, if you refer to the 2006 movie Borat, he gets his driver's license at the driver's school that we did.
Yeah, that's actually very true. What a bizarre fun fact about our hometown.
Very bizarre.
And either way, don't let the mercy idea confuse you. Don't get it twisted. Cullen killed for power and control because he enjoyed killing. He was a process killer as opposed to a product killer because the whole thing that he got off on was the process of killing another person in his care, as opposed to a product killer who doesn't care at all about the actual killing, just wants that good dead body.
Yep. GGDB.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go now. Charles Cullen was born on February 22nd, 1960, and he was the youngest of 8 children in West Orange, New Jersey, to devoutly Irish Catholic parents. His father died when Charles was still an infant, but not before molesting him a whole bunch, allegedly.
Oof.
And he died while he was an infant. He was not even a year old. So good riddance to that piece of shit.
Yeah.
He described his childhood as miserable and was bullied by his siblings, his sister's boyfriends, and kids at school. He survives the first of many suicide attempts when he is 9 years old.
Oh my God.
I know. He mixed chemicals from his chemistry set and drank them. Charles would claim to have survived at least 20 more suicide attempts before his arrest in 2003. Man. When he was in 5th grade, he wrote a book about growing up in a world where life is meaningless. And this has nothing to do with the story at all. You're like 10 years old and you're writing, whatever a 5th grade version of a book is, but growing up in a world where life is meaningless.
Time out. What year was he born?
1960.
Okay. So 1970,
so
he was
age.
Kind of feeling that way? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
Well,
okay.
It would have been 1969 because he was 9, but yeah. Somewhere in there.
Right. I gotcha.
In high school, he became obsessed with Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment.
Yep.
Yeah, which, if you don't know, is about a poor former student in St. Petersburg, Russia, who contemplates killing a pawnbroker for her money and the moral dilemmas that accompany such a decision. And after he commits the murders, his reasons and justifications crumble, leaving him filled with regret and horror at his decisions. And I just thought that was really interesting for a high schooler to be obsessed with.
Absolutely.
He was said to be very smart, but he was also like pretty mentally ill. He was very depressed. He had anxiety. He was bullied. So he wasn't having a good time. So I guess Crime and Punishment. And now that I'm thinking about it, that totally sounds like something I would have done in high school if I would have been reading Russian literature. But I believe it or not, wasn't.
No, me neither. Me neither, babe.
In December of 1977, Charles's mother, Florence, was killed in a car accident where his sister was driving, and Charles was completely devastated. The following year, there were noticeable changes in his personality. And in 1978, he decided to get back at his bullies, and he went to a party and he laced their drinks with rat poison. Multiple people.
Fucking what? I mean, I guess that makes sense. That tracks with who he is, but
it totally tracks. But that's how he was going to take the power back from his bullies, was to poison them with rat poison. Okay. And I don't know anything about it. I couldn't find any more information, and I did look for it. But yeah, nobody died, luckily. But soon after the incident, Charles dropped out of high school, and shortly after that, he joined the Navy in April of 1978. Do you know what doesn't make sense about that? If he was born in 1960 and everything else was normal, he would have graduated in 1978, like a month later.
Yeah.
Because it even says he was in his senior year of high school. He was like a month away from finishing.
That's a life choice.
Yeah, well, the Navy doesn't care if you have a high school diploma, or it didn't in 1978.
In fact, it prefers it.
I'm sure it does. Over the next year, he received ballistics training to become a missile technician on submarines.
You know, when you have non-high school graduates getting ballistics trainings?
Ballistics on a submarine.
You know, I think it'll be people are like, you know what, this will be good.
It'll be fine. This will be good.
This is who will defend our country.
Yes. And eventually he was assigned to the USS Woodrow Wilson, and later the USS Canopus, Canopus.
What did you just call me?
I hate you. The USS Canopus, Canopus.
Yeah, I heard what you said.
Canopus. Well, anyway, as a part of a team operating Poseidon missiles.
They sound ominous.
They do. And while he was in the Navy, he would often assist the onboard doctor, who later suggested that Cullen become a nurse because he had such an interest in medicine. However, all was not good, and during this time in the Navy, he was bullied and hazed by his shipmates. He also survived multiple suicide attempts, and shortly after, and I don't get this, almost every source I read described this as a disturbing event or a startling moment or like a clear sign that something wasn't right about him. Okay. He dressed in full surgical gear. Like he wore green scrubs and a mask and a cap and gloves instead of his uniform.
Like all the time?
No, like for his shift that one day. He never offered an explanation, and he was disciplined. And I couldn't find out why. There was nothing like why this was disturbing, but every single source mentioned it.
So the only thing that's come to my head is the TV show MASH that my mom always watched growing up, and Klinger would try to get discharged from the Army by dressing up in women's clothing. So that's the only thing I could think about. It's like it goes against regulation. Like if you're on a shift, you need to be wearing proper garb.
Well, that's exactly what it is.
And that's the only thing that I'm thinking of right now.
Well, no, I mean, it is the military. So, I mean, what you're wearing is a big deal. So I can understand him being disciplined for not wearing proper attire. But that's not, I mean, and yes, that happened. That's what I mean. That's what I don't understand. Why would you call it startling or disturbing? Like, hey, man, why are you wearing scrubs? And then he doesn't tell you.
I mean, and call me crazy, but as a kid, as a little gay kid, seeing Klinger wear women's clothing was not so bad.
No, it was fine. And he's not even wearing women's clothing. He's just wearing scrubs.
Yeah, this is just scrubs.
Pajamas.
Calm down.
Well, he was wearing the mask and the cap and the gloves. But,
okay, that's a little bit.
And then in 1984, after more suicide attempts, he was medically discharged. And although the reason isn't stated, it's most likely psychological reasons, because shortly before he was discharged, he was committed to a psych ward.
Okay.
Yeah. And then after the Navy, things seemed to turn around for Charles. He took the doctor's advice and went to nursing school, where he excelled, and he was actually elected nursing school class president. So he was class president, and he was working in a restaurant part-time while he was in school, and he met Chef Adrian Taub or Baum, Baum or Taub. In different sources, they use different maiden names, but her first name was Adrian.
Okay.
They fell in love, and after a very quick whirlwind romance, they got married after Charles graduated nursing school in 1986. And also in 1986, he started his first nursing gig at St. Barnabas Medical Center in Livingston, New Jersey. And soon after, the couple had their first child, and the good times ended.
Just like that? Just like that.
He couldn't handle being a nurse, a husband, and a father, and he started drinking heavily, and his personality really took a nosedive. They had a second child, and Charles became very resentful anytime they were in his care, and he often ended up neglecting them. It was during this time that he started his Angel of Death BS. On June 11th, 1988, Judge John W. Yango Sr. was admitted to St. Barnabas Hospital for an allergic reaction to blood thinners. And Charles, as his nurse, gave him a lethal dose of lidocaine via his IV line, and he died. And there wasn't a whole lot of information about this person or any of the victims, really. But yeah, his first victim in the bag. This is a trigger warning.
Okay.
Skip about a minute if you're not feeling great mentally or you have an issue with abuse and animal abuse.
Starting now.
Okay. Adrian later found him torturing their dogs multiple times. And I've been single 100% of the time for my whole life. I certainly don't have kids. So I do have pets though. And I don't care who you are, but if you look at them the wrong way, I will end you or I will leave you. And those are your only options.
Hell yes.
She also found out later that he poisoned a neighbor's dog.
Fuck that.
Yeah. And then during the winter of 1991 to 1992, he starts psychologically and physically abusing his wife and kids. It's winter and he won't allow them to use the heat. He demands that it be kept off. This is in New Jersey in the winter. So he would stuff the pets into bags or trash cans in front of them. And then he would pour lighter fluid into people's drinks. And then he would prank call funeral homes, which I'm not going to condone, but
no,
it's like the least worst thing that he did. And trigger warning area. And then Adrian surprisingly leaves him in 1992.
I'm shocked.
Also in 1992, Charles leaves St. Barnabas after an investigation into tampering of IV bags was going on internally. One source said he was fired, but almost every other source said he quit. So that's what I'm going to go with. Later, Cullen would admit to killing 11 people while he was at St. Barnabas Hospital.
11 people.
And he was there from 86 to 92. So 6 years.
Yeah, in 6 years, 11, like 2 people a year practically.
Yeah. Yep. And one of those patients was, and it just doesn't make, well, obviously it doesn't make sense because I'm not a murderer, but like, I mean, one way he killed someone, he killed an AIDS patient with an overdose of insulin. It was investigated and it was found that Charles was responsible, but he left the hospital by that point and nothing was done.
But that doesn't make sense.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
If I stole from my current company, if I stole money and then I found another job, it's not like they're like, oh, we can't prosecute him because he's moved on to another job.
Yeah. And I mean, listen, it's not 1988. They didn't have extensive documents on everybody. So maybe it would have required just a tiny bit of work to figure out where he was.
That is true.
But they didn't do that. And this is what I mean when I say that even though some angels of death go undetected for years and years and years, and that's how they get their high body counts, that's not what happened here. He was detected from the beginning and investigated, and you were going to see over and over and over again, this happens.
I feel so confident in our law enforcement.
Listen, I mean, it was a long time ago.
We were alive by then. It wasn't a long time ago. Don't date us.
Okay, well, listen, we're not that young. All right. Calm down. We are not the youth. Thank God. 1993 comes and Adrian now has filed 2 different domestic violence complaints. And even though they were separated, it's because, they still have the kids. So she still is forced to interact with him all the time. Yeah. I don't know much about them, but after each event, a judge denies her restraining order. And at first I was upset. I was like, why are you denying this? Blah, blah, blah. And then I found out the reason was, and it makes sense, even if it sucks, is because the reason she was giving for the restraining order was that she feared because he had access to drugs from work, he would steal those drugs and hurt the children or her, which we know is a very good thing for her to feel because it's probably very possible considering what he's doing. But up until that point, there was no evidence that he'd killed anyone at all, that he had done anything wrong at all. I mean, yes, it sucks that it was denied, but I can't really blame them because what was it supposed to be on?
Right. What was the criteria? Yeah.
There was nothing to base it on, unfortunately. I mean, there was the 2 domestic violence events, and I don't know what those were, but considering what we do know, I'm sure it was really horrible and traumatizing, but I don't have enough information to make any opinions. However, a 3rd restraining order was granted in April of 1993 after he broke into the home of a friend while she was sleeping alone with her son.
Okay. Wow.
So he was arrested for that, and then he survived 2 more suicide attempts, and then those 3 events together got her restraining order. There was no custody, no visitations or anything. Also, at this time, I believe the divorce becomes final. And he makes a big deal about saying in 1993 about how he wanted to stop nursing, but he couldn't because he had to pay child support. And it really rubs me the wrong way because I feel like he's saying, if I didn't have these kids, I wouldn't have continued to be a nurse and I wouldn't have murdered them. So putting blame on his own children, which I mean is not really surprising considering the things that we know about this person. But then I was like, he's literally murdered 11 people at this point. So I don't know why this is what upsets me, but I'm just like, what a piece of shit you are.
What a POS. Yeah.
So it turns out he didn't want kids. Kids were not good for him. All he had to do was leave. That's not a good thing.
All he would have to do.
Listen, it doesn't make you a good person, but it saves the lives of over 40 people.
Right.
That's all you had to do. Anyway, Cullen eventually got a new job after he quit at Warren Hospital in Phillipsburg, New Jersey. And 2 patients were soon murdered after he started there and found to have high levels of digoxin, a heart stimulant, in their system. One patient even had family visiting at the time when Cullen asked them to leave the room. And when they came back, the patient told them that the nurse stuck her with something. And then she was dead the next day.
Okay. I'm just gearing up because I know it's going to get worse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's going to be worse until the end.
Yeah.
Sorry. Sort of what we do here.
Yeah, sort of our thing.
Yeah. And again, the family reported their suspicion that he had something to do with it. The hospital actually investigated again, and Cullen was given a lie detector test, which he passed. So the investigation was discontinued. Psychopaths can easily pass a lie detector test.
And that's why they're not admissible in court. They're not
I mean, for a lot of other reasons, but yes.
For a lot of other reasons, but like...
They're just completely unreliable.
They're unreliable, but that was, I mean, if that is what made them stop investigating, then damn.
Yeah. And then at the end of 1993, finds Charles unwell. He quits his job and his divorce is finalized. He gets mental health treatment and doesn't really go back to work until April of 1994, when he starts working at Hunterdon Medical Center in Flemington, New Jersey. And then also that June of 1994, he gets his Pennsylvania nursing license. So look out, world. In October of 1994, this is really sweet, he receives an award for diligence and hard work from his colleagues. And he starts dating again. He's going to get back out there. It seems like he had a bit of a cooling off period here because I couldn't find any murders until 1996. And Murderpedia told me that Cullen was adamant he didn't kill anybody during his first 2 years in Hunterdon. So maybe he didn't, but also it can't be verified because by the time he was arrested in 2003, all of the hospital records had been destroyed or lost or whatever. So it couldn't be confirmed either way. But he made up for it in his third year, killing 5 patients in 9 months in 1996 via overdose of digoxin.
Oh, amazing. Amazing work.
He's really killing it. He's killing it. Isn't that fun? Isn't it fun? Oh, boy.
I'm glad we can laugh about it now.
Can we? Can we laugh it so far?
Can we, though?
This show's a comedy. We have fun, FBI, who's listening to us. We're just
they
joking.
Love it. They've learned so much from us.
My FBI agent is never bored.
No.
So, you're welcome.
Not at all.
You're welcome.
Gives them something to do. Must be bored.
Of course. Who's watching me?
Or she. We don't know. We're not judging.
They. Thank you.
They. Let's be honest. The FBI would not hire any non-binaries.
Of course not.
Of course
There's
not.
Absolutely cis-het, which makes it even more fun for me if that's true.
Yes.
Forcing a heterosexual cis person to watch this life.
Yes.
I hope you're miserable. I hope you're so uncomfortable the whole time. Anyway, so in 1997, Charles was working at Morris Memorial Hospital, but was fired for
You can do it. You can do it.
Get stuck.
You can do it.
Poor performance.
There she is.
Shut up.
Was that even it?
Yes, it was. I can't get the peas. You know, I don't appreciate
It's hard to get peas in the mouth. I know. It's hard to get peas in the mouth.
Not for you.
Not for me. I'm just saying I know your pain, dear.
He was fired for poor performance in August. And he didn't immediately go back to work. And he also stopped paying child support.
I wouldn't expect anything less. Yeah.
No. From October 1997 to February 1998, he sought treatment for his mental health, but unfortunately he had no improvements or reported no improvements. But even though he didn't report any improvements, I think he had some because during this time, neighbors reported that he could be found chasing cats down the street in the middle of the night. And isn't that a terribly disturbing image?
No, that's an improvement.
Yeah, I think it might be. He's getting exercise.
So. Yes. He's giving the cats exercise too.
Well, I mean, listen, these are homeless cats. I'm sure they're getting plenty of exercise.
You don't know that. How dare you judge?
I don't know that, but I do hope they're mad. And I hope they get back at him. Also, he reportedly yelled at and talked to himself so much that other people on the street would notice. And he also made crazy faces at people when he thought they weren't looking. But, spoiler alert, they were looking.
Mm-hmm. They sure were.
Yeah. And then here we go. February 1998. Picture it. Now, Charles branches out to wide open Pennsylvania. And I don't know if it's to get rid of the heat or if he's just looking for a fresh start just over that bridge into Pennsylvania. But he starts working at the Liberty Nursing and Rehabilitation Center in Allentown on a unit for patients on respirators. Okay. Sort of a perfect gig for an angel of death.
Yeah, sort of a primo setup.
Primo. During his time at Liberty, he was accused of giving medications at unscheduled times, and he was fired after now, this is a disturbing incident, if you want to hear about a disturbing incident. Mm-hmm. It didn't have anything to do with clothing. He was seen entering a patient's room with multiple syringes, and he left. The patient had no injection marks, but the patient did have a broken arm. So, isn't that fun and interesting?
How'd that work?
A little mystery.
Yeah, a little whodunit.
But yeah, so the patient had a broken arm. He later killed another patient at this hospital, but lucky for him, it was blamed on a different nurse, and he wasn't going to correct anybody.
Damn.
And the order of the events is conflicting. One stating that he was fired for accidentally breaking the patient's arm, and some that he left on his own because he was starting to feel the heat. So I don't really know. But for a few months in the beginning of November of 1998, he worked at Elston Hospital in Elston, Pennsylvania, where he murdered Ottomar Schramm on New Year's Eve with digoxin again. He gave this injection in front of the patient's daughter, and he died the next morning. The coroner's report showed that he had high levels of the drug without the drug ever being prescribed to this patient. But there was no conclusive evidence pointing to Charles, so there was no investigation. At the same time, he started working as a night nurse at Lehigh Valley Hospital. Working as a night nurse.
Working on my night nurse.
I know, I was trying so hard not to do it. Thank you for doing it. And I'm a night nurse. Okay. At Lehigh Hospital, or medical center or hospital, I don't know. He killed one patient, Matthew Mattern, and he was 22. Not his youngest patient, but close. And tried to kill another, but was unsuccessful. A month after the failed attempt, he quit and started at St. Luke's Hospital in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. And he really got to work there. Over the next 3 years, he would kill 5 more people from June 22nd, 2001 to June 2nd, 2002. And these are all elderly people. And that was normally his gig, which is also very common for most angel of death killers. But,
absolutely.
And they were Irene Krampf, William Park, Samuel Sprangler, Daniel George, and Edward O'Toole. And it was right after Edward O'Toole's murder when one of his coworkers found vials of unused drugs in a disposal bin. And it really didn't make any sense because the drugs had no street value or recreational use. So it just didn't make any sense why someone would, because it obviously looked like someone was trying to steal them. Like, why would you be stealing these medications? And it was very weird. So the hospital started an investigation and he got the hell out of there on June 7th, 5 days later. But, I mean, the coworkers didn't give up here because after he left, seven nurses met with the Lehigh Valley District Attorney to voice their suspicions about Charles, how he was only on his unit 20% of the time, but he was there for 2/3 of all of the deaths on the unit. So how are you going to be there 20% of the time, but also be there for 67% of the deaths?
When you spell it out like that, it's certainly sus.
Yes. It's crazy. Or it's just like a really bad hospital. And I don't think it was. I think it was fine. No. It was a fine hospital. Lehigh County investigators didn't look into his past, and the investigation ended 9 months later because of lack of evidence.
What?
There wasn't a lack of evidence. They just didn't look for evidence.
And apparently he just moved jobs because that's what we'll get you to
exactly,
like, drop
and
a case.
We'll talk about why and how that was so easy, because there's a few reasons that lead to it. But yes, he just moved. And it's not like sometimes he moves to a hospital in the same town. It's not like he's like even trying that hard to like cover it up. So even though the investigation ended and he left Lehigh Hospital, but even though that happened, Lehigh Hospital finally did something right. And they did report him to the Pennsylvania State Nursing Board for probable unprofessional conduct. And then because of that, the Board of Nursing started their own investigation.
That's wild. No, this is all wild.
It's just, and like, I come from a family of nurses, the good kind, not these kind. I just literally can't imagine. Like, I love these kinds of, I don't love these kinds of stories, but I love hearing about and learning about these kinds of stories because obviously I'm obsessed with things I don't understand. And I just don't get this. This is just like, the only reason you're a nurse is to perform murder. Anyway, it makes it very easy. So those coworkers weren't quiet though. And when they found out he was hired at the Sacred Heart Hospital in Allentown, they notified the staff there. And when the staff found out, the entire nursing staff threatened to quit en masse if he wasn't fired. So he was fired 16 days after being hired.
Oh, shit. Now that should tell you something.
It really should. And you have to think about it because a nurse is going to trust a different nurse. If you have a friend who's a nurse over wherever he was, at Lehigh, and they work with this person, you know, they're going to talk about it. And you're going to be like, oh, what are you talking about? We just hired Charles Cullen. He's working at my hospital now. And so good for them. But don't worry. I mean, Charles, you can't keep a good man down, you know?
Cannot.
And on September 8th, 2002, he starts working at Somerset Medical Center in Somerset, New Jersey, where he reached his killing climax, killing at least 13 people in a year.
I'm like not shocked, but I'm shocked.
No, and it's like, and you can tell like as he gets to the end before he gets arrested and caught.
Yeah.
They're getting closer and closer in time. Before he was doing, 5 in 3 years, and now he's doing 13 in 1 year. Obviously, there's a serious escalation, right? Mm-hmm. And like, I know with sexual sadist serial killers, they do the thing, they kill or they rape or they whatever, and then that holds them off for a little while. I wonder if it's like the same thing. Because I looked into it, and the reason that people are like this, it's usually just people who are completely powerless in their own lives. Taking power over something. You get to play God. But it's a total power move what they're doing. So I don't know. It's just interesting. It's like a drug. Like the one kill you did in 1993 kept you going for like 7 months. But that same kill in 2002 is only lasting you 2 weeks.
I mean, isn't that the same comparison to...
No, that's what I mean. It's like the same
exactly.
thing.
Yeah.
Well, I know. And and obviously he is a serial killer. It's just like, I have a really, you know what, Kevin, I just don't understand what it's like to be a serial killer. I think that's my problem.
That could,
and I should just be happy with that.
Let us hope that is what it is.
Maybe that's just
for God's sake. Yes.
Anyway, in January 2003, the Pennsylvania Nursing Board completed its investigation of Cullen and his Lehigh Valley murders, which was sent to the state police. And while at Somerset, he impressed his coworkers with his eagerness to help, volunteering to fetch medicines or prepare IV bags or to refill drugs from the pharmacy when stock was low. He was a really helpful guy, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, this hospital had something that the others didn't, which was a computer drug dispensing system called Pyxis. Pyxis? Pyxis?
That sounds like that. Yeah.
I'm going to say Pyxis, which obviously required you had to log into it and you had to request specific drugs for specific patients. And then the machine would dispense the medications.
Okay.
Meanwhile, the state police were investigating after they got the report from the nursing board. And Detective Braun reached out to Somerset Hospital for his Pyxis data, like his login data for Cullen, but the administration told police it was only safe for 30 days, so they couldn't help him. That was a lie.
What?
And so Braun decided to get a subpoena anyway, and he was able to subpoena the records.
Good.
So the hospital just lied.
Yeah. To what? To save their own ass?
Yeah, of course. It's to save face. They didn't want anything to get out about this being involved with their hospital. Mm-hmm. So it's just the crisis management option of this being a possibility is to lie and hope it stays covered up.
Oh my God.
But so Braun gets the subpoena and he's like, well, isn't that funny? More than 30 days. And what he found was Cullen spent an inordinate amount of time at the nurse's station using computers, browsing patient records, mainly patients that were not assigned to him. Mm-hmm. And then the Pyxis records showed that digoxin and the insulin, which were his two preferred killers, weapons, whatever, they came from the same drawer. So he would log in and he would basically like access the medication through the system. The medicine was dispensed and you had to like open the drawer. So after the medicine was dispensed, he would like cancel it. He would open the drawer, cancel it. So the records indicated that that patient wasn't getting that medication, which is what he wanted, but he still was able to access it. The problem was that there was a login record of it.
Right.
But I mean, without that login record, he would have been able to keep doing it ad nauseum. The pieces were also being put together at Somerset too, even with the administrators keeping their blinders on, because one pharmacist was spooked after there were 3 suspicious deaths at the hospital, and all 3 of them were overdoses of digoxin for 3 patients who were not ever prescribed digoxin. So this pharmacist decided to take things in his own hands, and he called poison control to report the deaths. And the doctor he spoke with told him that the levels found in their blood warranted calling the police. The doctor at Poison Control even contacted the hospital administrators directly to urge them to call the police as well. But don't worry about it. Hospital officials decided to wait 3 months after the warning to investigate. And in 3 months alone, he killed 5 more people.
I'm starting to think that the real villains here in this story are hospitals.
Well, it's a business. That is, listen, we could talk. We don't have time.
That's a whole other episode.
Right. Yeah. So in August of 2003, the hospital is fined for not reporting those 3 suspicious deaths that we just talked about.
Yeah.
However, the hospital finally investigates and they share their findings with the police, and everything literally points to Cullen. Everything. There's no doubt about it. But administrators refuse to believe it because he's a good worker and he's helpful and punctual and quiet. Detective Braun now begins looking into his employment history, and boy, was he surprised. He reaches out to the Pennsylvania State Police and they join forces. So like detectives, 2 states, they really actually literally saved the day. On October 21st, he commits his last murder at Somerset. And shortly after, he's fired. And don't worry, because it's not for murder. It's because they found a lie on his application.
Oh. Thank God they're doing their due diligence there.
They are. And he hadn't been working there for years.
No.
And then police surveilled his every move after he was fired. And then Detective Braun reached out to Cullen's friend, Amy Longren, for more information, and she was absolutely resistant to helping them. She thought there was absolutely no way that her good friend, Charles, could do any of this. But Braun showed her the Pyxis logs, and she knew immediately that he was murdering people. Eventually, he got her to agree to wear a wire, and she met him at a restaurant, and she point blank said to him, "I know you killed those people." And his response was, "I'm going down fighting."
No, that was not me.
Nope. But that's not a confession, and that's not enough for arrest.
Yeah.
But it was enough for him to be brought in for questioning, which he did on December 12th, 2003. He was brought in for a murder and an attempted murder that they could very easily pin on him. And he was arrested on that day, finally, 16 years later. And 2 days later, on December 14th, he admitted to killing all of the others, over 40. And he was in New Jersey. He pled guilty to 22 counts of murder, 3 counts of attempted murder, and he got 11 consecutive life sentences. And he will be eligible for parole in 397 years.
Oh, okay.
And, yeah. And then
that's not far.
But don't worry, even if he is paroled, he's got to go to Pennsylvania after his 11th consecutive life sentence, because he pled guilty in Pennsylvania as well. And he was convicted for 7 murders and 3 attempted murders and got 6 more life sentences. So his sentence was ultimately 17 life sentences.
Okay, that sounds a bit appropriate on the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, he agreed to work with them to identify victims to avoid the death penalty. So.
Oh, okay.
So and that's why really, and the investigators that he's worked with truly believe that they have numbers exceeding 300 victims. And the outcome of this, it exposed a real problem in the healthcare employment industry. And like I said before, there's a few drivers behind how he was able to get away with this for so long. And one of them we already touched on, and that's, these businesses need to save face. If they don't investigate it, they have plausible deniability, and they can get away with not doing anything without any fault. And an almost bigger problem is actually that in especially the late 1990s, there was a crazy nursing shortage. So there was less looking into your background. There was less, checking in all of that, because they were so desperate to hire qualified people that they simply didn't look into things like that. And the combination of those two things allowed this man to go completely detected for 16 years, but not get arrested until 2003. And then in 2004, New Jersey passed the Patient Safety Act and the Healthcare Profession Responsibility and Reporting Enhancement Act. Because before this, remember we were talking about suspicious deaths and talking about suspicious deaths? I forgot. Hospitals weren't actually required to report every suspicious death. They just weren't required to. So now in New Jersey, anyway, and I don't know what the law is now, to be fair. I didn't have time to look into it. But at least as of 2004 in New Jersey, every single serious preventable adverse event must be reported. But yeah. And that is Charles Edmund Cullen, the Angel of Death. New Jersey's most
Cullen
serial killer.
I gotta say,
so much murder.
as a Cullen, he's probably killed more humans.
Don't do it.
He's probably killed more humans than anything in a Stephanie Meyer's book.
Stop it. Stop this.
Yes.
It's Twilight.
I'm not wrong.
No, but I wrote his name. No, you're not. But I wrote his name as Edward Cullen the entire time, because his name is Charles Edmund Cullen.
You're like a personal drug to me. You're like my own personal brand of heroin.
Okay. Joke's on you. You're the one quoting it.
Joke's on me. I went to go see New Moon twice in 24 hours when it came out.
Which one was New Moon?
Number 2.
The second? That was the worst one. Wasn't it? That was the one where she was just sad the whole time, wasn't it?
Yes.
Obviously, they're all terrible, but all I can remember is she's sitting in a bay window, like in a hard wooden chair, just staring And it's just like the seasons passing.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I saw it at a midnight showing. But I couldn't wait. I had already bought tickets to an 8 p.m. showing for that day, but I couldn't wait.
What do you mean you couldn't wait? You were like into it? Was I there?
I went with a former friend. And I was at Twihard for a very short period of time.
Were you?
Very short period
I read them
of time.
because that came out. Yeah, they
2009?
came out. Yeah, no, it was before that.
New Moon, the movie, came out.
Oh, the movie. Yeah, because I remember when I had to like drop out of college for my back.
Yeah.
Like those books were really big and I was like, I got fuck all to do. I will read these books.
Yeah.
And I read them.
But it's no Edward Cullen, I guess. No. Cullen clan.
Not those kind of Cullens, just the Catholic murderer kind.
Yeah, we'll take those Cullens over this POS any day.
Yeah. All they do is sparkle in the sun.
Damn, man.
Yeah, sorry.
That's prolific as fuck.
Well, he's their most prolific serial killer, and that's just like with the 40 that he admitted to. Or even, I don't know if it's to the 40 he admitted to, or the 29 that they were able to actually convict him on.
Right.
And if you go to Murderpedia, they had this document here that just was called information. And when you click on it, some wonderful person like put together this incredibly detailed outline, and it helped me so much. But yeah, his youngest victim was 21. Wow. And his oldest was in his 90s.
A span of 70 years, yeah.
Beyond that, he can't claim that he's doing it for mercy because most of these people weren't even dying. Or they didn't even have terminal illnesses. And when confronted with these facts, like at first, I think he really tried to deny a lot of them, but then he would be like confronted with records and be like, what about these? And he'd be like, yeah. And then he would just admit to them. And then he would be like, oh, there's actually like 1 billion more.
Yeah. Shit.
So many.
Well, thank you. This is a terrible story.
No, Kevin. Thank you.
I am heartbroken by these victims. Remind me never to go to a New Jersey hospital ever. If I'm ever in the area and I need medical attention. That's not the hospital's fault. I know.
It also
I'm
happened
being
in Pennsylvania.
Facetious.
And there's like 1 million more of these people.
Yeah, no hospital is safe. I'm never going to a hospital, ever. I will only make house calls for my doctors now for the rest of my life. And even that.
Are you in the 19th century?
Sometimes.
Sometimes you just have. You have.
Well, I live in a house that was built in the 1800s, so maybe I'd like to pretend that I still live in the 1800s. God, I wish my house was haunted. It is not. It is not.
I want you to be haunted as a person.
There was a lady that used to own my house named Lillian. I want her to be haunting my house, but she's not. I want to go sing Lillian.
She sounds like
and she was a wife. She married someone with last name Lillian. Bitch was named Lillian, married a Mr. Lillian.
That's unfortunate. That is upsetting.
Well, Miss, again, thank you for this amazing story. I had no idea who this was about. This guy was an obvious monster. And what did he get? 17 life sentences?
17 consecutive life sentences.
That's a talent there.
Yeah.
All right.
And what do you have for us this week for our spoopy story?
Oh, do I have a spoopy story for you?
I
have a spoopy story. Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right.
So my story today is incredible in its unexplainingness. And that's a word that I'm coining. All right.
Support it.
So I'm sure everyone's heard of acid rain, right?
Sure.
That's when chemicals like sulfur oxides or nitrogen oxides are released into the air.
They're like caught in the...
They're caught in the atmosphere. They mix with water molecules and they fall back down to earth in the form of acid rain. We all get that.
Okay.
Not great, but we understand it. Yes.
No, not great. Nobody's in love with it.
But at least we know what acid rain is and how it's caused. But today, I'm going to tell you a story about a very mysterious event that occurred not once, not twice, not even 3 times, but 6 whole times in the span of 3 weeks.
Okay.
And that 3-week period was in August of 1994. The happenings took place in a small city in Washington state called Oakville, in what's been described as the Oakville Blobs. Have you heard of them?
What? Of course not.
The Oakville Blobs.
What? Did you know about this?
I did not, and I was pleasantly surprised when I found out about them.
Blobs.
Yeah.
Okay.
It all started on August 7th, 1994. And Oakville is a small city in western Washington state, about an hour's drive southwest of Tacoma. And it's about...
Southwest,
Yeah, and it's on the western side of the state. It's about 50 miles inland from the Pacific.
Okay. 50 miles inland. Okay.
It's a small logging town with a population under 700 people. And it's not really known for anything else, except for this.
It's really small.
Very small. So, at 3 a.m. on August 7th, rain began to fall, blanketing a 20-square-mile area, which, isn't very unusual for Washington state, of course.
Sure it's always raining.
But what was unusual was that a number of residents started calling in reports about clear, translucent, gelatinous blobs.
Oh, what?
Each the size about a half a grain of rice, which covered the ground around the town during the rain.
What?
Yeah.
So like jelly?
Yeah, like clear, gelatinous little blobs that fell from the sky.
Like they're small?
Yeah, they're about half of the size of a grain of rice.
Okay. All right. Changing direction of thoughts.
Yeah. So a cop, his name was Officer David Lacey. He was on patrol, and when he turned his windshield wipers on when it began to rain, they smeared against it instead of, washing off of it. That forced him to pull into a gas station nearby so he could try and clear it off manually.
Fair. Okay.
After donning a pair of latex gloves for safety, he started wiping it down, and he was quoted in a 1997 Unsolved Mysteries episode saying, "The substance was very mushy, almost like if you had Jell-O in your hand. You could pretty much squish it through your fingers. We knew it wasn't something we'd normally see because, we'd never experienced it before. We had some bells go off in our heads that basically said, this isn't right. This isn't normal." Elderly resident Dottie Hearn stepped outside after the rain stopped. Good old Dottie.
Tell me like it is. Tell me like it is, Dottie.
She stepped outside after the rain stopped and noticed that the blobs, they were everywhere. At first, it looked like hailstones to her. But when she touched it, she felt the same odd gelatinous texture as Officer Lacey. Now, here's where it gets freaky. By that afternoon, the cop, Dottie, Dottie's daughter, and various other residents that came in contact with it started experiencing mysterious and violent symptoms, like having difficulty breathing, extreme vertigo, blurred vision, nausea. Dottie was found sprawled on her bathroom floor by her daughter. She was conscious, but she was very weak.
Oh my God. What the hell?
Yeah. Her daughter, whose name is Sunny Barcliff.
Dottie and Sunny? Are you kidding me?
I know.
Great names. Dottie and Sunny. It's such a good name, but I love it for a girl.
Yeah, it's a good name. It's a good name.
Good name. Anyway, moving on. Dottie, Sunny, I'm here.
Yes. So Sunny described her mother as feeling cold yet sweat-drenched and looked white as a ghost. And again, she was feeling all those other symptoms, nausea, all that stuff. So she was taken to the hospital where she stayed there for 3 days.
Oh.
And additionally, several cats and dogs in the area that came in contact with the blobs, they also fell ill. And some of them died.
Come on.
Including one of Dottie's cats.
Hasn't Dottie been through enough?
I know. Justice for Dottie. Like, this was not your average summer shower. I've never heard of that.
No, this is the rain from hell.
So Sunny, after she helped get her mom to the hospital, She collected a sample of the rain blobs and she sent it to a local lab for testing. Now get this shit. Get this shit.
I'm in it.
A lab technician examined it and found that it contained human white blood cells, but couldn't identify what it was or how it came from the sky. From the initial lab test saying that it contained human white blood cells, it was sent off to a higher agency for further analysis. Michael McDowell, who was a microbiologist at the Washington State Department of Health, he tested those samples, and he found that the blobs contained 2 species of bacteria, one of which lives in the human digestive system. So we have 2 different labs saying that there's some sort of human-related results coming from these lab tests.
Human-related results. Great band name.
Yeah. So another mysterious layer of these events that are occurring.
Really bizarre. Okay, so just so I'm clear. So
go ahead.
Pets are dying. Dottie and Sunny are sick.
Humans are falling ill.
And it's because they've interacted with this quote unquote rain. Okay, I have a theory. It's not rain. Let's go. Can't be rain. I have a theory.
It can't be rain. Okay, I have some theories we're going to talk about, so keep that in mind.
Okay.
So
I'll let you know.
In that same Unsolved Mysteries episode, Michael McDowell, the microbiologist at the Washington State Department of Health, he was quoted as saying, "We found 2 organisms, Pseudomonas florensis and Enterobacter cloacae." God, I hope I pronounced those correctly.
I'm sure. To me, they're perfect.
I looked up these bacteria, and Pseudomonas florensis could cause illness in immunocompromised people. But Enterobacter cloacae is listed as a biosafety level 1 bacterium, which basically means it's not really all that dangerous. And it's on the level of safetiness as like high school science labs could use and college labs could use. So it's not terribly dangerous.
Like, listen, it's not completely safe, but
it's a bacteria. Exactly. So if there are any science nerds listening right now, please correct me if I'm wrong.
We have a few nurses that are probably listening. If you could please explain this to us. We're dum-dums.
Yes, please. Yes. So again, 2 different labs tested and found multiple items of intrigue dealing with living organisms of some sort. And again, this rain event didn't just happen once. Over the next 3 weeks.
6 times?
Yeah, there were an additional 5 separate reported events in that same local area, with several more people claiming of falling ill after coming in contact with those blobs.
Okay, second theory slowly developing. I have a 1-2-part theory going. Okay. That is...
So because of that microbiologist, Michael McDowell's findings, it was initially speculated to be human waste from an airplane.
Jesus.
You know, how the toilets. Was that what you were thinking?
No, but I guess, in theory it would be like urine though. Wouldn't they be able to say that it would?
No, it could also be poop.
All right.
It could be poop.
I cannot believe it. Poop. All right. No, I mean, it's clear though. Yes. Is my point.
That's exactly what I was about to say. Because FAA regulations require that liquid used in plain toilets need to be dyed blue. And again, those blobs were clear. Additionally, regulations also forbid pilots from releasing that poopy blue water mid-flight. So it's extremely unlikely that substance was related to airplane toilet waste, especially if it happened that many times.
Fair. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy that it would happen one time, but to happen 5 more times.
Yeah. All in that kind of same area, too.
Yeah, and I feel like they would be able to, trace that, wouldn't they? Like, they'd be able to say, okay, well, there was a plane flying over here at this time. Obviously, they released it. Okay, they've done it 3 times now. Maybe we should have learned somebody at this point.
Right. But again, there was no dye detected either. So it really leads to the idea that it wasn't from a plane.
No. Okay. I agree with that.
No. So various other theories have also been suggested to explain the events, including this one is a little stupid, I will say. Fucking stupid.
Okay, so obviously true. Let's hear it.
Obviously true. So an event could have been explained as naval bombing testings that happened at sea could have, possibly bombed and destroyed a school of jellyfish, which sent their pieces flying into the atmosphere, and they eventually settled in Oakland.
Explain the human DNA, though.
Yeah, explain.
How did the jellyfish acquire human DNA? Which I love that if anybody is listening to this, they can only hear my part of this because I'm wearing headphones, and these walls are really thin, so somebody just heard me yell that really loudly. Anyway.
And this is a good time to mention again that Oakville is 50 miles inland, and that's like an hour's drive to the Pacific coast.
Okay, that's if you're going 60 miles an hour. Like, there's no way. How? No. What was there? A tornado? Was it Sharknado? But with jellyfish?
Jellynado?
Jellynado?
Exactly.
The unanticipated, unrequested, whatever a sequel is.
Yes. So again, that jellyfish theory is just as unlikely as that airplane poopy doops theory.
Poopy doops. Yeah, no.
But while the Air Force confirms that they were doing practice bombing runs over the Pacific Ocean in August of 1994, they deny knowledge of the substance or any involvement creating or dispersing it.
Okay, so just because they were out, I'm so mad that people would even think. Okay, so just
this is a logging town of 700. I don't know what else there is to talk about there.
There are humans with brains, I promise you.
I don't know.
I'm just saying, why on earth is that the thing that makes sense to you? Because it makes sense to somebody.
They were so convinced of it that they almost wanted to throw a jellyfish festival that summer and kind of make a jellyfish cocktail. Yes.
Listen, have you watched The Great British Bake Off with the lesbian from England where she does the spherical ball jelly things?
Yes, and injects. Yes, and she doesn't get it out in time and it melts. Yes, I know.
Yeah, well, listen, that's not at all the point. However, her name was Yan. She does that. So
I was talking about the vet lady that injected the gel. No? Okay.
No, I'm talking about Yan. She's in an earlier season.
I do remember Yan.
Yeah, so she was a scientist. And she had this thing and she dropped it into oil and it created perfect circles. Hers were orange. I'm sure they can make them clear. What I'm saying is you could really bank on this jellyfish festival idea. And in fact, I'd like to speak to the current person in charge of this jellyfish festival because I have some ideas that I would like to discuss with that person.
So speculations abound, but nothing was ever concluded. Even still, Beverly Roberts, who was another resident in 1994, said that everyone in the town contracted a flu-like illness that lasted for 2 to 3 months.
Oh, what? No, they didn't.
And this is all to say, this may not be connected. Who the fuck knows? But she says that happened.
I don't mean to be disrespectful, but I don't believe her. Because if a town,
of shit.
Even if it's only 700 people, if 700 people, and I know 700 doesn't seem like a lot in the days of COVID, but if every single person in one tiny town got this crazy virus for 3 months, that would be crazy news. And nobody else got it. It was just in this one town. That would be a crazy TV movie. I think there was even an Under the Dome Stephen King situation. We would know about it.
So you remember Dottie, right? The elderly lady with her daughter, Sunny?
I remember Dottie. Of course I remember Dottie.
Hashtag we remember Dottie.
I love Dottie. Mm-hmm.
So Sunny, she had some samples that she sent off right away, but apparently she had some other samples that she kept in the freezer. She kept that for about a year. And with those samples, she sent it to a lab in Seattle called Test Laboratories, which is still alive and operating. I looked them up today. They are private research lab.
And what are they doing?
So there, at the time, in 1995, a year later, Tim Davis, who was another microbiologist, tested it. He believed he saw eukaryotic cells. Eukaryotic cells. Eukaryotic cells, which are complex nucleus-containing cells that are present in most living creatures like animals, plants, fungi, and algae. So this meant that whatever those blobs were, they were or had been at some point.
They were alive.
What the fuck? What the fuck?
So what is this? At least, 4 labs?
Yes.
Saying it's organic matter?
Some kind of organic matter that fell from the skies in a torrential downpour more than once on one small logging town.
Okay, listen, if this was true, where were the news?
It was true. It was on Unsolved Mysteries. There was a New York Times article that I am going to cite in our sources.
Stand corrected. I stand corrected.
Thank you.
Oh, me of little faith. I know.
In conclusion, the 1994 events have remained unsolved and unconcluded since they've occurred. And as far as I found, the events haven't occurred since either. But it's fucking crazy. 6 separate times in torrential downpours. They sent gelatinous goo in a 20-mile radius? With people getting sick coming in contact?
For months. I just, okay. And there's no answers.
No. And you can look it up on Wikipedia. If you go to the Oakville Wikipedia page, there's a little section about it.
So what do people think that it is?
No one knows. No one knows.
God, that's too much. I hate that. I don't like that answer.
Yeah, I'm sorry. The truth hurts.
All right. Well, we've got obvious biological warfare happening.
Yeah. All we know is it could have been some government testing on some biological weapons, and they used Oakville, Washington as their target.
Settle down.
Consequently, all the frogs have been gay there since 1994.
Stop it.
And that could not be connected in any way, but, facts are facts, my friends.
Facts. Facts. He went down.
Facts are facts, America.
He pulled those frogs, and they were all homosexuals.
He was like, "Can I talk to you?" And every frog was like, "Yes, girl."
Absolutely. Will I talk to you? You can't get me to stop.
No. So that is the story of Oakville Blobs.
That's wild.
Yes. Miss, would I ever lie to you?
Okay, so here are my theories. Do you want to hear
Yes.
them?
Oh my God, yes. Please tell me your theories.
Okay, so they're good. Let me think. Let me organize my thoughts.
No need. Go ahead.
All right. Theory 1. There is a lab nearby, maybe even underground. They're doing experiments with human matter. What are they doing, and why are they in a cave? Why are they in the cave, Kevin?
Are there caves in Oakville?
There are mountains in Washington.
There are trees. I know that.
Sure. There are absolutely trees. That's not, you're focusing on the details. What I mean to say is that somewhere there was an explosion, or it could have been, you know what it was? If I'm going to play Alex Jones, it was probably just like a trial, try it on this small
Alex
town.
Jones. Come on now.
I don't really know.
Wake up, sheeple.
Stop it. I hate it.
No, Edie can only do it. We cannot do it.
Yeah. No, Edie just, no, because coming from you, it's aggressive.
Yeah, that wasn't Alex Jones. That was a cry for help.
No, that was good. No, I mean to say, I don't really know. And there's a targeted attack on this small town, and it's just like a test drive. So,
is this what you're going to play?
Kevin, I love to speculate wildly, and you're really interfering with that.
Look, this is what I do wildly in my life. Party,
speculate,
sleep, and speculate.
Yes. Amen. Take that party out there. I could say eat, sleep, and speculate. Those are the things that I do wildly. So anyway, so they've got the human DNA, it explodes, and then when you're in proximity of these little jelly balls, they release the virus, but they can get everyone sick because they're jelly. They don't just go away right away. It takes a long time for them to, okay, I'm boring myself. My other idea, no, that's it. That's pretty much it. The biological weapon.
That was it. I really thought you were going to give me something akin to jellyfish being exploded out of the Pacific Ocean and being thrown inland 50 miles. But you give me the typical conspiracy.
I love to speculate.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I love to speculate does not mean I am not without reason. I am a reason-based vehicle.
What fun is that?
While also loving... It's not fun at all. I didn't say it was fun. That's where the speculating comes in. Well, thank you, Kevin. That was wonderful. I'm upset.
Thanks, miss.
Yeah, I'm upset. And you know I don't like things without a solution.
I know.
So thanks for the unsolved story.
Oakville Blobs, baby.
Oakville Blobs. How about
and when I first read that, I was like, oh, are we going to am I about to read a story about body snatchers, kind of like blobs, alien blobs coming from no, it is something else that was not that, but I was equally intrigued.
I just feel like if there was even a little bit of truth to it, it would have been a sensation. Well, do we think, could it be alien matter? Mutated DNA?
So I don't know. I don't think so. My gut is saying probably not. But also my gut says, you don't have a good idea. So
you don't know anything.
You're ignorant, fool. So I can't trust my gut.
That's fair. I agree with that. Kevin, that was such a good story. It's going to bother me for a really long time. And it's probably...
Totally did it because of that, actually. I knew it would bother you.
Thank you. You know me so well.
Yeah. And so until next week's episode, have a great week. And until then, what we always say at the end of every episode... Bye.